Yep, so this is the one that I'll just go through a few slides before we come to the system again. And this is again the slides that I have done here are because in attribute management we had little confusion yesterday. So we'll go through the theory today, I mean from the slides, and we will share these slides with you again. So this will give you a little more sense like what actually attribute mapping and linking those things, why we are doing that, and what we will achieve if we do that. So this is the first series of slides that I'll try to cover today, and then we'll go to the other things. We'll see if this gets little too much in theory. We'll see in system as well, little bit things. So this will be followed up in our next section, with proper exercises next week or after our break. So now this we have discussed little bit of this, but I want to go through the concepts because I want this thing to go straight to our minds. So attribute mapping enables you to extend your pricing capabilities by using data from wide variety of non-standard sources. Now what it means is, we have some seeded attributes which are given by Oracle which can be used in pricing. Now if those seeded attributes, for example, I repeat those things again, like for item you have item number, item category, and item one more thing from item. So if you want to use any other attribute, then you can define your this custom context and then attribute in that, and then your formula which will call those things. So that is what this tells us. Like when do you use attribute management? When you want to have those attributes for pricing which are not coming in advanced pricing as a seeded feature. Now the data sources for qualifier and pricing attributes can be from within or outside Oracle application. When it says outside, it says the third party things you can also have. But let's first focus upon the other modules of Oracle, like inventory or any other module. You can have those attributes which you can use. What kind of attributes we can build? They will be either qualifier attributes, like if some qualifying conditions for which we are building it, or pricing attributes. So now what we do using these features are we create new contexts and attributes, update existing context and attribute, disable existing. So these two are done like if we already have some attributes. The first thing will be you will build context. Context is like your logical grouping of your attributes. Like context will be like a header under which you are building some attributes. Now those attributes, once you are built, you link it to a pricing entity, and then we'll see in other slides as well. Three methods to source data for an attribute are user entered, custom source, attribute mapping. So this is important. This is the one which normally requires little more application everywhere. User entered is attribute value entered by user. Custom source is custom code is used to derive an attribute. And attribute mapping is the one which we were discussing yesterday as well. The pricing engine derives information from other Oracle application and non-Oracle data sources. So this is what we'll see all the three, but this is the one that we were talking yesterday as well. Now attribute types, there are qualifier and pricing attributes are used to define customer or product attributes. So these attributes that we will be building, they will be either based on your product attributes or the item attributes or customer information. A product attribute defines product pricing characteristics such as product item, item number, category or brand. Customer attribute defines customer pricing characteristics, customer name, number, those kind of things. So these, see, though these are examples, these are coming already as a seeded thing. So these are not our point of worry. These are just terminologies. I will skip these for now because just talking about them will not make much sense. Pricing transaction entity for us will always be advanced pricing. Source system is the system which is calling the pricing engine, like your channel revenue management, order management, or any other application. And request type is identification of a transaction which is being priced. Like sales order, order capture, those kind of things. Now this is where it starts into detail. Creating contexts and attributes for pricing. Now to create contexts, first you create a context, then created attributes to define a specific value that define pricing rule. For example, a context of customer can include pricing attributes such as customer name or customer class. Now qualifier context used to create qualifier that determine eligibility for a modifier to be applied on the transaction. Qualifier can be attached to price list only in advanced pricing and modifier. Qualifiers, you know, where we use qualifier is the condition that when the modifier will be applied. So normally qualifiers, they are coming in advanced pricing with seeded attributes like customer or item. If you want to have an attribute outside of those seeded attributes, that is the time when you build that context and attributes. Basically, context is the header under which we are building our different attributes. Product context and pricing context. So product context, when we say these are items that are used in price list and modifier, are defined using product context item. Oracle Advanced Pricing support price and modifier definition or following levels for attribute of the context. All items, item number, item category. Now a note here says you cannot add new context to product context type. However, you can add attributes to existing product context item. Now when we are building custom context, we can only build for qualifier or pricing context. We cannot build for product because of the limitation advanced pricing. It doesn't provide you to build a custom context for item attributes. But you can add new attributes to the already seeded context named as item. So I'll go to the system and just show you what context mean actually, where you see the context. Now pricing context, define eligibility for a price list or modifier and can be used for a price list line as a formula component or in modifiers. So suppose your pricing need is very different than the normal way Oracle has thought till now, and it can be because every firm is the unique selling proposition of a country or a trade secret for a company to have those kind of things which makes it better in the market. So suppose your pricing is some special formula based on your products or customers or suppliers or any such attribute which is not given by advanced pricing as a seeded attribute. Like a thing you say you have categorized your customers by a attribute which says these are special customers. Whenever there is a special customer, have a different type of pricing. Now that special, when you are labeling your customer as a special, you are storing in an attribute which is not a seeded attribute. Suppose now to have pricing derived by that attribute, because that attribute will not come in any of the qualifier condition or a pricing condition, you will define a context. What context means? That under this context there will be some pricing attributes which I will use, where I can utilize my special thing as an attribute and price my sales orders based on that. Whenever the customer, now once you have done this all exercise like creating context, attribute linking, and then compiling it, pricing engine will always have that, like you have attached this thing to the pricing engine. Now whenever you are on the sales order and that pricing engine is called, it already has built this code in itself that I have to check every time whether this customer is a special customer. If yes, I have to apply pricing based on the code or the logic that has been given to me. So that is one example. Okay, so yeah, so these are the steps like how you create it. Create a new context, then define the attribute for that context. That's what I was saying. The context is the header, and like you say my pricing and then my pricing attributes, and under that header you will have your different pricing attributes. Now second step, what you do is link your attribute to advanced pricing. When I say PTE, you can say like pricing transaction entity, which is right now for you say its advanced pricing module. You can build custom PTEs, but will stay away from that because I never seen that people doing that. Once you create context attribute grouping, you can link it to a specific PTE. For mapped attributes, define attribute mapping rule, then run the build attribute mapping rules program. So these programs are linking your logic to the programming engine. Now once you have defined your custom attributes, you have linked it to advanced pricing, and then or order fulfillment, those kind of things will come up, and then you run this program. Once this program is run, this step applies only to attributes with attribute mapping method or attribute mapping of attribute mapping. Whenever you create or update these attributes, you should run this program again. What this program is doing, it is telling the pricing engine or linking this context and attributes within it to the pricing engine thing. And then you can enter an order, verify that your pricing custom pricing is being called when you have done this step. So now this is the slide which is having a lot of material in it, but I'll just read through it, and I think this will help you guys. When you run the program, it dynamically generates package which contains attribute mapping calls to build attribute mapping rules for the attribute. This package contains only the rule used of used attributes, qualifier and pricing attribute that are used in the pricing setup that can be mapped at runtime. The program generates attribute mapping for all attributes that have attribute mapping enabled box selected. When the build attribute mapping program runs successfully, attribute mapping status box selected for those attributes mapping is generated. The program displays a status message to advise whether program finishes successfully. This is fine. And if you can requery build attribute rule is successful and move focus to attribute mapping status box. I'll show you what these things are. We'll go through the one of the attributes there. The calling application, how attribute mapping works at runtime. Now this is also important. The calling application, suppose sales order line, calls this program, what we have built, which starts the attribute mapping routines that are programs and returns the attributes to the calling application. The calling application appends the user entered attribute asked for qualifier to this request. The calling application then calls the pricing engine when these map attribute values. The pricing engine also appends a few internally mapped attributes to this request. The pricing engine processes the request and returns the results to the calling application. The PTE helps narrow the data and search engine evaluates. The search engine evaluates only the setup data that is generated by all source systems that are defined for that PTE. It also makes context of one PTE unavailable to pricing application families. So in nutshell, what this is telling you, once you have done the build attribute mapping program that was on the previous slide, this program or pub is called by your order management or whichever module you are calling the pricing engine, and then it kind of links all those custom attribute like you had that special on your customer, and then it will be taking those values and pricing as per your needs. So let's see a little bit of it in like how we will do these things. So updating this. So we go to setup because this is one of those setups, and you go to attributes management. You first have to create. It starts with creating a context. Now I just want to see if there are already, and these are not seeded, so some people have created, but we will do our own just to see how it is done. So suppose you have to see, you can see like what people have done, different types of testing, but that will be your, once you get time, you guys can go through. For now, let's create one basic one, and then we will see how it works. I'm just closing this first and then opening again. So this is the header. That's what I was saying. Context is your header. and these are your attributes, like lines of those. So you are grouping a lot of attributes together, or you might have just one attribute. But the concept of header and line things goes across most of the Oracle things, as we know. So now type. If you remember, we talked about there are two types that will come here when we'll click on LOB: pricing or qualifier. You see. So either you are building a new qualifying rules attributes, or you are building a new pricing attributes. Yes. The third type was item, which they were saying there was a note right in our slide that the advanced pricing doesn't allow you to build item context, but the existing item kind of thing you can add, like there is already, item pricing entity on which you can add attributes. Yeah, Oracle calls product as item. Many other ERP system call those as product. Some call that as part number if it is a manufacturing ERP. Oracle calls it item, and it is little.
So
And
why
some
is
some
that you're
other way,
saying is that like it's not displayed here?
because there is no context. You cannot build a custom context or an attribute on item.
Okay.
But you can only do that's kind of thing that advanced pricing has done with a little limitation, that either you can build a attribute base on which you will do your pricing, or you will do your qualifying condition. The third product is not available.
Yeah.
But you see, let me go back to our slides and then you will relate. So in here, how many types of contexts are there? If I ask, then there are qualifier contexts, product contexts, and pricing contexts. Now the note here says you cannot add new context to product context type. However, you can add attributes to existing product context item. So this context already exists where you can add the attributes, but you cannot build this kind of attribute or context. So let's build one, say, just to show you. Pricing context. Now code, you can give your own code, like my list or my context. Context is your logical grouping of whatever attributes you are going to build. This was code because this thing can be passed to your programs. Now this you can have little more descriptive. My attributes. Description even more further. You can go a little more. So I'll say pricing for special VIP customer. So this is, I can save it. So this header is saved. Now I will build something here. Now you see this box is not checked because this is not a seeded attribute or context, but this is enabled. Suppose you define this, but after a few days you think this should not be done right now. We might use it in future, or we might not use it. You can come here and disable it. Then it will not be used for pricing. Now again, in here code, you can build first attribute. Its name is special identifier. Precedence is 1. Application where you will get it. Let me see what values it's showing you as all values. So say, what should I say? Inventory. So let me choose inventory just for example. So these attributes will be used. So this is a table in which these are all columns. These are like 1 to 100. Yeah. So you can build like 100 if you say from here. So let's use the first one. Doesn't matter what number you select here. Value set will limit the, if you have defined a value set, I think you guys know the concept of value set, like it limits the data structure or the length of, uh, yeah, your length of the field that you want to use and the type of data type that you want to use. So we haven't defined anything, so let it be. And save this. This has been saved. So this is, suppose you have built this one. Now the next thing you will do is link these things. See, because if you use first one, so first one will not count this. I use second. So what type of context we build? We built a pricing context. Now if I say product, so in here there are three coming up. That is where they say, like, in item you can link your attributes, because product context we were not able to set there, but you can link in here. In here you can add your attributes, like say suppose this will come from item table, and you can have like from there some of these. I think some person has already added all those, so I'm not getting any values in DSS. So I'll leave product one, but we'll come to the pricing one because that's where we have defined our own context. Now you see there are so many. I don't remember the name. Yeah, my context was the one which we have built. So my attributes for pricing, this is the one which we have built. This is enabled. Now what it is not happening right now, it is not assigned. Otherwise this small checkbox would have been checked. So after we do few things here, this will become checked. I can do like this, but it will not check it. So you see, so this is what it was saying. Unless you run that program, it will not link it in here. So right now it is present here because we have defined it, but it is still not linked to the pricing engine. So pricing engine will not care about it. So what I do is I can see what context it was. So suppose you forget, or there are another one with the similar name. So you can click on this box and it will show you what you had defined. So it brings you to the same screen where you were defining it, the context button. The next button is the one which links it. So in here, you can choose first or second, which one you want to do. I'll say first. Level, you can choose any. Order means order header only, or line, or both. So I want it at line level. Method, I'll choose attribute mapping. Same for the second one. Now you see there are other things in here. When I click on attribute mapping for the first one, that is the point where I can tell them the application, say order capture. User source type. These are the values where I can attach, my now PL SQL API. Or a constant value like 5 you can tell here, but advantage is you will attach a PL SQL value, and here you will give the name of your package. So whatever you have done your custom coding, its name would be like, you say, my price pkg dot whatever. So this is how you will see the objects will be called. So this package will be called, which you have compiled in the database attached to this this application, where whenever this thing becomes eligible, this package will be called where you have written the code. That is one way. Or if you say instead of this source type PL SQL API, you just want to have a constant value. So this will say 1, 2, kind of thing that you can do. So what happens is, like, if you are doing this, you will need help from the technical team to build a PL SQL package which can be attached. Now it's asking me to map it for all of those, which I'm not doing right now, but I'll show you some other. Yeah, see, now it is done here if you see, but attributes so this program I have to run, otherwise it will not map. So I'm running this, run in background and link it. So right now I haven't done the coding piece, but I could have asked the development team to build a code for me, and then they would have attached it in this package. They could have told me the package name. This has been done. So now whenever I will be on my sales order, I'll put that customer, and if that customer has that special attribute, the pricing will be done based on this attribute or the linking of this thing, the attributes that you have defined based on those, as simple as that.
Okay.